Bobble is one of my favorite games. Until last year, though, I never realized that it came out on the Master System, which I really should have guessed because there's been a version of it on pretty much every platform. This version wasn't released here in North America, but in Europe, it came out pretty late in the game, several years after the NES release. Which explains the blurb on the back saying that they finally are making an appearance on the Sega Master System. Now, I understand due to the number of languages they had to put on the back of the package, since it was being released in so many different countries, that they didn't have room for much of a description. But read this. It is the least descriptive description of a game that I've ever seen in my life. And compared to some of the descriptions that they put on the back of these cases for other Master System games, it's kind of surprising and jarring. Now, by the time this came out for the Master System, if you had an NES, you already had a copy, chances are. But nevertheless, they still put the warning on the back, for use on Sega System only, just to make sure you didn't try to put this cartridge in your Nintendo. Let's take a look at it. Now, I'm not going to be able to help comparing this version to other releases of Bobble, but I have to admit, the lack of sound in the menu and title screen comes off as a bit half-assed. I also apologize if the sound is a bit choppy in sections of the gameplay recording here, but I was having some issues with fraps at the time. Anybody who's familiar with the arcade version and the NES version of Bobble knows that there's a bit of a discrepancy between the quality of the graphics in those versions. This one, while it doesn't quite measure up to the arcade, looks a lot better than the NES version, and that's usually true for Master System games. The video hardware seemed to be better on that system. The sound is very comparable to the NES version, and overall, I could take either one. For anybody not already familiar with the game, the object is to destroy all of the enemies on each screen. You do this by shooting bubbles at them. If you hit an enemy with a bubble, they get trapped in it, and you then have to pop the bubble to fully destroy the enemy. If you don't pop the bubble in time, they'll bust out of it and become very angry. They turn red, they move very quickly, and the only way to turn them back to normal is, well, die. Obviously, that's not an ideal solution to the problem. If you're close enough to an enemy, when you shoot a bubble, you'll automatically pop it, which just destroys the enemy outright immediately. Oh, this is where I started screwing up, because I saw that necklace over there, and I don't remember what it does. So, I panicked, went over and tried to get it just to see what it does, died repeatedly, made some stupid mistakes, and it disappeared by the time I got there. But that's part of the fun of Bobble. There are so many different items that can pop up on the screen, it's difficult to keep track of what each one does, and so just collecting them becomes a very fun part of the game. Each level has a different time limit, after which, if you haven't completed the level already, all of the enemies become angered, turn red, and try even harder to kill you. This greatly increases the difficulty. And there's a game over. Now I'm going to compare the password system in this game to the NES version. In that version, the passwords were 5 digits long. In this one, they're 8 digits long. Well, not digits, but letters. You know what I mean, and I'm not recording that over again. Fuck it. But there's probably a good reason for that, and it's the reason that I can safely recommend this version over pretty much any other version of the game. This, by the way, is a perfect example of things you should edit out of your video. And there we go. The reason that the passwords are probably longer is there are twice as many levels in the Master System version of the game than any other version. At least approximately twice as many. The Nintendo version had, I think, 116 levels, and the arcade version, I think, was the same. Some versions, I think, had exactly 100 levels, but it's nearly twice as many. There are 200 levels in this version, and wow, that's a lot of game. And it gets difficult pretty early on in that 200 levels. Yeah, see, I can't deal with that. Even though this is one of my favorite games of all time, it doesn't mean I'm good at it. I mean, I don't think I'm bad at it, but yeah, that was bad. I highly recommend the 2-player mode because it is a cooperative mode, and you go through the same levels with the same number of enemies, but you have 2 people fighting them, so it becomes a little bit easier and, you know, more possible to get through the game that way. But of course, once you've reached a level, the password that it gives you will let you select any level to start at up to that level with full lives and continues. So, you know, you don't have to get through it all in one shot. In fact, I'm not convinced that anybody could. I've skipped ahead here to the final level, which is a boss. And this is different from the Nintendo version also, because in that one, the boss is just in the middle of the screen. You get a little bit of a head start to get up to those potions, which I will talk about in a bit. And then he starts moving around. I don't think there's any pedestal. I don't remember any kind of pedestal that he was standing on in the NES version. And generally the graphical updates to this version are a welcome change. Now, the potions don't only appear in the boss fight. There are different potions that you can find throughout the game, and what they do is change your bubbles. This is a lightning potion, makes you shoot lightning bubbles, and when they pop, a lightning bolt flies out in the opposite direction that you're facing when you popped it. And that's the only way that you can attack that boss. Now, something strange that I noticed here that I wasn't aware of before, but might actually happen in the other versions of the game, I don't know, I've never tried it. In the first level, I waited around until the hurry up message came up, and then I kept waiting, just so that I could show you what happens. After a predetermined amount of time, which is different for each level, the enemies will remain red, but this guy, Baron von Bubble, will show up, and he chases you around, moving alternately vertically and horizontally, but always toward you, until you complete the level or until you die, and he is undefeatable. But, after I let him appear and then hit him and died, a chest appeared, or was it a door? Something appeared, and I went in and there were all these chests, and I've never seen this bonus level before. I wasn't quick enough to open all of the chests, and I couldn't actually figure out how they were opening, but I have to imagine it was by collecting all of the items that popped out of it. No, because I missed one there. That's a mystery to me, I don't get it. But I thought it was a pretty cool little thing that I could show, and if anybody has any idea what happened there, if it's normal for that to happen, let me know in the comments. And that's just another part of the fun of Bobble. Sometimes things happen that you didn't know could happen. There's a lot going on in this game, and there are a lot of secrets. And it's just a lot of fun to figure them out as you go, or, in my case, sometimes not figure them out. It's still fun, and I enjoy it a lot to this day. Overall, due to the sheer amount of extra content that you're getting here, short of having an actual original Bobble cabinet in your house, this is the version of Bobble I would recommend picking up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.